The highway felt endless that night. For hours, the only things surrounding Megan Collins were the sound of the engine, the white lines sliding beneath the truck, and darkness. A heavy darkness, the kind that made the entire world feel empty. And that was what scared female truck drivers the most during night runs. Not storms, not traffic, not flat tires, but the feeling of being completely alone in the middle of nowhere. Megan tightened her grip on the steering wheel and glanced at the glowing clock on the dashboard. At 4:47 a.m. She had been driving for almost 11 hours straight. Her eyes burned. The coffee had stopped working 2 states ago. Even the low country music playing through the speakers somehow made the silence worse. Outside, endless miles of Wyoming highway stretched into black emptiness. No cities, no lights, no people, just asphalt, darkness, and isolation. She rubbed her face hard, trying to stay awake. Then she finally saw lights in the distance. A truck stop. Small. Old. Almost empty. Exactly the kind of place she hated stopping at. But at that hour, she didn't have many choices. Megan slowly pulled into the parking lot, immediately scanning everything around her. 2 trucks parked near the darker end of the lot. An old pickup truck beside the convenience store. A flickering light above one of the fuel pumps. And a man standing alone near the ice machine. Her doors locked automatically. Pure instinct. Every female trucker developed habits like that. She parked beneath the brightest light she could find. Still, it didn't make her feel safe. Because lights don't stop determined people. The man near the ice machine slowly turned his head toward her truck. Megan immediately looked away. Her heartbeat picked up slightly. Maybe it was nothing. Probably nothing. But women learn early in life that ignoring bad feelings can become a dangerous mistake. She shut off the engine. And instantly, silence swallowed everything. Heavy silence. Uncomfortable silence. The kind that made a parked truck suddenly feel fragile. That was the strange thing about trucking. While driving, the truck felt powerful, safe, untouchable. But once parked for the night, it became a box, a thin metal box sitting alone in the dark. Megan grabbed her phone. No signal. Of course. She forced out a nervous laugh. Perfect. Dark parking lot. Middle of nowhere. No phone service. Exactly the kind of situation her brain loved turning into nightmares. She climbed into the sleeper cab, changed clothes quickly, and sat on the edge of the small bed. The truck suddenly felt smaller than usual. The walls tighter. The silence louder. Then she pulled the curtains closed around the cab. And instantly, the outside world disappeared. Now she couldn't see anything beyond those thin pieces of fabric. And somehow, that was worse. Because once the curtains closed, her imagination took over. It always happened. Every single night she slept alone on the road. The thoughts started slowly at first. What if someone was walking between the trucks right now? What if somebody watched female drivers before approaching? What if that man near the ice machine noticed she was alone? Megan sighed and leaned back against the pillow. You're overthinking again. But her mind didn't stop. It never stopped at night. Especially not after hearing so many stories from other female truckers. Women waking up to strangers pulling on their door handles. Women hearing footsteps outside their cab at 3 a.m. Women catching shadows moving around their trucks. Women who stopped sleeping deeply on the road years ago. Megan grabbed the pepper spray she always kept beside the bed. Just holding it made her feel slightly better. Slightly. Then a metallic sound echoed outside. Clang. Megan froze instantly. Her eyes snapped toward the curtain. Silence followed. Maybe another driver. Maybe the wind. Maybe nothing. Then, clang. Closer this time. Her chest tightened. Now her brain was fully awake. Fully alert. fully imagining things. She pictured someone stepping onto the side rails of the truck. Someone peeking through the tiny cracks in the curtains. Someone testing door handles truck by truck. She hated how quickly the mind could turn ordinary sounds into fear. But being a woman alone on the road taught you to think about things men rarely had to think about. Megan pulled the blanket closer, trying to calm herself down, trying to sleep. But the scenarios kept coming. What if somebody broke the window? What if someone hid underneath the trailer? What if she woke up and saw a face staring through the glass? She shut her eyes hard. But somehow that made everything worse. Because now she could picture it even more clearly. A stranger standing outside, watching the truck, waiting until she fell asleep, waiting for silence, waiting for vulnerability. Her eyes opened again immediately. She looked toward the curtain, and suddenly realized the part she hated most about sleeping inside a truck. Once the curtains closed, you had no idea what was happening outside anymore, and that thought sent a chill slowly crawling up her spine. She carefully pulled the curtain open just an inch. The parking lot looked almost empty. The pickup truck was still there. The other trucks too. But the man near the ice machine was gone. And somehow, that didn't make her feel better. It made her feel worse. Because now her imagination started asking different questions. Where did he go? Inside the store? Another truck? Or was he walking somewhere between the parked trailers right now? Maybe closer than she thought. Megan shut the curtain quickly, her heartbeat growing louder inside the silent cab. Then she noticed something else. The truck stop had become too quiet. No engines starting. No voices. No movement. Almost like the entire place had gone dead. She checked the clock again. Davlana. Still hours until sunrise. Hours trapped inside that dark cab. Hours listening to every sound outside. Hours alone. Then, footsteps. Slow footsteps. Very close to the truck. Megan stopped breathing. The footsteps came closer. Closer. Then stopped directly beside the driver's door. And a second later, someone slowly pulled the handle. The handle moved again. Slowly. Carefully. Like whoever stood outside didn't want to make too much noise. Clay. Megan sat frozen in the darkness of the sleeper cab, gripping the pepper spray so tightly her fingers hurt. Every muscle in her body locked instantly. Her heartbeat became painfully loud. The sound echoed in her ears so hard she could barely hear anything else. Then silence. Complete silence. And somehow that felt worse. Because silence meant the person outside was still there. Waiting. Listening. Thinking. Megan stared at the curtain without blinking. Her mind immediately exploded into terrifying possibilities. Maybe it was a thief checking unlocked trucks. Maybe it was someone drunk. Maybe it was a man who had been watching her since she parked. Or maybe he already knew she was alone. That thought made her stomach tighten. Most female truckers developed little habits to avoid exactly that situation. Some left large men's boots outside the truck. Some played fake male voices through Bluetooth speakers. Some even invented husbands during conversations at truck stops. Megan used to laugh at those things when she first started trucking. Not anymore. Because after years on the road, she learned something disturbing. Fear changes women. Especially women who spend nights alone in isolated places. Outside the cab, the parking lot remained dead silent. No engines. No conversations. Nothing. Megan slowly reached for her phone again. Still no signal. One tiny bar flickered onto the screen, then disappeared. Come on? Her voice barely came out as a whisper. She thought about turning the truck on and driving away immediately. But another thought instantly stopped her. What if the person outside was standing too close to the truck? What if she opened the curtain and saw someone staring directly back at her? What if starting the engine made him angry? Her imagination was becoming uncontrollable now. That was the real problem with fear during the night. Once your mind loses control, every possibility feels real. She suddenly remembered a story another female trucker told her months earlier in Nebraska. The woman woke up at 3 a.m. hearing somebody circling her truck. At first, she ignored it. Then came knocking. Then silence. And later she found footprints beside her cab the next morning. Megan remembered the exact sentence the woman said afterward. "Out here, your brain becomes your survival system." At the time, Megan thought it sounded dramatic. Now, sitting alone in total darkness, it felt completely real. Then, a shadow moved beneath the curtain. Megan's breath caught instantly. Someone was standing close enough for their silhouette to appear under the cab door. She stared at it, unable to move. The shadow stayed there. Still. Almost motionless. Like the person outside was listening for movement inside the truck. Megan slowly covered her mouth with her hand to silence her breathing. Her chest hurt from holding air too long. Seconds dragged by. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Still there, her imagination spiraled even further now. What if he had a weapon? What if there was more than one person outside? What if someone climbed onto the passenger side while she focused on the driver's door? She suddenly hated the curtains. Hated not being able to see. Because outside that thin fabric could be absolutely anything. A harmless stranger. Or the beginning of the worst night of her life. The shadow finally moved, slowly walking away from the door. Megan released a shaky breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Then she heard footsteps again, this time circling toward the back of the truck. Step, 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 then silence. Again. Her skin crawled. Why move to the back? What was he doing back there? Checking the trailer? Hiding? Waiting? Megan grabbed the edge of the curtain carefully and pulled it open just enough to look into the side mirror. Nothing. Only darkness and the pale glow from the parking lot lights. But then she noticed something strange. The old pickup truck near the store was gone. She frowned. She hadn't heard it leave. And somehow that made everything feel even more isolated. Now there were fewer vehicles. Fewer people. Less safety. The truck stop suddenly felt abandoned. Then another terrifying thought entered her head. What if whoever was outside knew exactly how fear worked? What if he understood that not seeing him was scarier than seeing him? Her pulse quickened again. Megan hated how vulnerable sleeping made her feel. During the day she was confident. Strong. Independent. A woman handling an 80,000-pound machine across thousands of miles. But at night inside a parked cab, everything changed. The darkness made every woman feel physically smaller. Easier to overpower. Easier to trap. She glanced at the clock. 2:31 a.m. Only 13 minutes had passed. It felt like an hour. Then suddenly, a loud metallic bang exploded behind the truck. Megan jumped violently. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Another bang followed immediately after. Bang. She almost sprayed the pepper spray accidentally. What the hell was that? Her breathing became uneven now. Fast. Shallow. She tried forcing herself to think logically. Maybe another driver dropped something. Maybe a trailer door slammed shut. Maybe... Then she heard it. Footsteps again. Fast this time. Moving beside the trailer. Coming toward the cab. "You shouldn't be alone out here." Megan stopped breathing. The man's voice outside the truck had been calm. Too calm. "You shouldn't be alone out here." The words replayed inside her head immediately. Over and over. Her fingers tightened around the pepper spray while she stared at the curtain in complete silence. Then came footsteps again. Slow footsteps moving away from the cab. She waited, listening carefully. Nothing. No scratching. No knocking. No voice. Just silence. And somehow the silence felt even more dangerous now, because her imagination immediately started building new scenarios. What if he was hiding nearby? What if he was waiting for her to fall asleep? What if there was more than one person outside? Megan forced herself to breathe slowly. You're panicking. But deep down she knew something terrifying. Women develop instincts for a reason. Especially women who spend years alone on highways at night. She slowly grabbed the curtain again and opened it slightly. The parking lot looked almost dead. The lights buzzed softly above the fuel pumps. One truck remained parked near the far corner. Everything else looked empty. Too empty. Then she noticed something strange. The convenience store lights were off. Her stomach dropped. Just 20 minutes earlier the store had been open. Now it looked completely dark. Closed. Like the entire truck stop had gone to sleep. Megan quickly shut the curtain again. Her chest tightened. That feeling returned immediately. The feeling that she was trapped. Inside a thin metal box. Alone. Then another horrible thought entered her mind. What if somebody opened the trailer doors while she slept? What if someone climbed underneath the truck? What if she woke up and saw a face standing inches from the window? Her mind kept creating images faster and faster now. She hated it. But exhaustion made fear stronger. Every tiny sound became suspicious. A distant engine, wind against metal. The soft creak of the truck shifting slightly. Suddenly, thud. A noise hit the side of the trailer. Megan jumped hard. Her heartbeat exploded again. Then came another sound. A slow, dragging noise. Like something moving alongside the truck. She grabbed the curtain and peeked through the smallest gap possible. Nothing near the cab. But then, movement. Near the back of the trailer. A dark figure crossing between trucks. Megan froze instantly. The person disappeared seconds later into the darkness. Her pulse hammered violently now. Was it the same man? Another truck driver? Or someone watching her truck this entire time? She realized something horrifying. She had no idea. And that was the worst part of being alone at night. Not knowing what was real. Not knowing whether fear was protecting you or destroying you. Then suddenly, a loud sound echoed beside the cab. Clack. The passenger side door handle moved. Megan spun toward the sound in pure panic. Someone was on the other side of the truck now. And this time, they were trying the other door. Gleke. The passenger side handle moved again. Megan stared into the darkness of the cab, completely frozen. For a second, she couldn't even breathe. Whoever was outside had moved around the truck quietly. Too quietly. That terrified her more than anything. Because normal people made noise. Normal people didn't sneak around parked trucks at nearly 3 a.m. Her heartbeat pounded violently as she slowly slid across the bed toward the passenger side curtain. Every movement felt dangerous now. The truck suddenly seemed tiny, like there was nowhere to hide. She grabbed the edge of the curtain carefully and pulled it back just enough to see outside. Nothing. Only darkness. Empty parking spaces. Cold yellow lights reflecting on the pavement. But then, movement. A shadow passing quickly between 2 trailers. Megan pulled the curtain shut immediately. Her breathing turned shallow. Fast. Panicked. She couldn't tell anymore if she was truly seeing someone, or if exhaustion was starting to affect her mind. That thought scared her almost as much as the stranger outside. Because tired truckers imagined things sometimes. Especially after long night drives. She knew stories about drivers hearing voices, seeing people on empty highways, mistaking shadows for movement. And now, trapped alone inside the sleeper cab, Megan started wondering if her brain was turning against her too. Then another thought hit her. What if nobody had touched the truck at all? What if fear itself was creating the sounds? She tried thinking logically. Metal contracts at night. Trailers shift. Wind creates noise. But deep down, her instincts kept screaming something else. Someone is out there. Then suddenly, a loud knock hit the passenger door. Megan nearly screamed. 3 more knocks followed immediately. Harder this time. Bang. 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 Her entire body shook. That was real. There was no imagining that. Someone was definitely outside now. And then came silence again. No footsteps. No voice. Nothing. Megan slowly backed away from the curtain, gripping the pepper spray with trembling hands. She looked toward the ignition keys. Maybe she should leave. Right now. Just drive. But another terrifying possibility instantly entered her mind. What if the second she started the truck, someone climbed onto the side step? What if they were waiting for movement? Waiting for proof she was scared? Her chest tightened painfully. The cab suddenly felt hotter, smaller, harder to breathe inside. Then, a faint sound came from outside the driver's side window. A whisper, so quiet she almost thought she imagined it. But then she heard it again. Open the curtain. Megan's blood turned cold. Because this time, the voice sounded much closer. Megan stayed completely still. The whisper outside had sounded close enough to touch the truck. Open the curtain. Her throat went dry instantly. Every instinct told her not to move, not to look, not to make a sound. But another part of her needed to know. Because sometimes uncertainty becomes worse than fear itself. Seconds dragged by painfully. Then came a soft tapping against the glass. Not aggressive. Not loud. Almost patient. Like whoever stood outside knew she was terrified. Megan slowly turned her head toward the driver's side curtain. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. Just one quick look. That was all. Then she'd start the truck and leave. She took a shaky breath and pulled the curtain open slightly. At first, she saw nothing except reflections from the parking lot lights. Then, a face appeared beside the glass. Megan gasped violently and jerked backward across the bed. A man stood inches from the window staring directly inside the cab. His expression looked strangely calm. That was the terrifying part. He wasn't angry, wasn't drunk, wasn't yelling. He simply stood there watching her, smiling slightly. Megan's entire body went numb. The man slowly lifted one hand and tapped the window again. Tap, tap, tap. Then he pointed downward, toward the passenger side of the truck. Megan frowned in confusion for half a second. And then she heard it. Another sound. A second pair of footsteps. On the opposite side of the cab, her blood froze. She wasn't dealing with one person. There were 2. Panic exploded inside her chest instantly. The man outside the window kept staring at her without blinking, keeping her attention focused on him, while somebody else moved around the other side of the truck. Megan suddenly realized what they might be doing. Distracting her, testing her, maybe trying to see how scared she was. She grabbed her keys immediately. Enough. She was leaving. Right now. Her shaking hand jammed the key into the ignition. But before she could turn it, a violent bang slammed against the passenger side door. Megan screamed. Another bang followed immediately after. The entire cab shook. And then she heard the unmistakable sound of someone climbing onto the side step outside. Heavy boots. Metal creaking. Closer. Higher. Coming toward the window. The smiling man never broke eye contact. Not even once. Then, slowly, his smile disappeared, and he quietly mouthed 4 words through the glass. You picked the wrong stop. You picked the wrong stop. The words hit Megan harder than the banging on the truck. Pure fear surged through her body. The man outside the window stepped back slightly, but his eyes never left her. Meanwhile, the second person was still climbing the passenger side. The metal steps groaned loudly. Closer. Closer. Megan's hands shook violently as she finally turned the ignition key. The engine exploded to life. Instantly, the entire truck vibrated beneath her. For 1 second, relief flooded her chest. Then the man outside smiled again. Like he wasn't worried at all. That terrified her even more. Because most people would back away once a truck started moving. He didn't. He simply stared at her. Calm. Patient. Almost confident. Then Megan heard a heavy thud above the passenger door. Someone had climbed higher onto the truck. Oh my God. Her breathing became uneven. Fast. Sharp. Panicked. She threw the truck into gear immediately. But another horrible thought suddenly stopped her. What if the second she moved, someone fell beneath the wheels? What if that was exactly what they wanted? Her mind spiraled instantly. Fear was destroying her ability to think clearly now. That was another thing female truckers rarely talked about. Panic can trap you faster than danger itself. Outside the windshield, the empty truck stop looked unreal beneath the pale lights. No workers. No movement near the store. No other drivers outside. Like the entire world had disappeared except for her truck. Then, a loud slam hit the roof of the cab. Megan screamed again. Someone was above her now, walking on the truck. Heavy footsteps moved across the roof slowly, deliberately. The sound was almost worse than seeing them, because now her imagination became uncontrollable. She pictured someone trying to break through the emergency hatch. Someone smashing the windshield. Someone dropping onto the hood in front of her. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. The footsteps stopped directly overhead. Silence. Then came 3 slow knocks from the roof. Bang. 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 Megan felt tears forming in her eyes. Not from weakness. From pure adrenaline. Her survival instincts were screaming at her to move. Now. Suddenly the man beside the window stepped backward into the darkness. Gone. Megan's eyes widened. Where did he go? Then movement appeared in front of the truck. Her stomach dropped instantly. The man was now standing directly in front of the headlights, blocking the exit. Completely still. Watching her. And then, the person on top of the cab started laughing softly. The laughter above the cab continued softly. Not loud. Not crazy. That was what made it terrifying. It sounded controlled. Like the person on the roof was enjoying her fear. Megan stared through the windshield at the man standing in front of the truck. The headlights illuminated his face clearly now. Calm expression. Hands inside his jacket pockets. Not moving. Just watching her. Waiting. Her pulse hammered painfully inside her chest. Every survival instinct screamed at her to hit the gas. But fear kept throwing horrible possibilities into her mind. What if the man didn't move? What if she killed him? What if that was their trap all along? Then another thought hit her. What if they knew panic would stop her from acting? Because panic had already done exactly that. It had trapped her inside her own mind. The footsteps above the cab moved again slowly, then stopped directly over her. Megan suddenly realized something terrifying. If someone truly wanted to hurt her, they already had control. Because fear had completely destroyed her ability to think. And that realization changed something inside her. Her breathing slowly steadied. Not calm. Never calm. But focused. She looked at the mirrors, looked at the empty lot, looked at the man in front of the truck. Then she noticed something strange. Neither man was actually trying to break in anymore. They weren't forcing doors. They weren't smashing windows. They were feeding off fear, testing it, controlling it. And suddenly Megan remembered advice an older female trucker once told her years earlier. Predators look for panic first. The man in front of the headlights slowly smiled again, like he expected her to stay frozen. Instead, Megan slammed her hand onto the air horn. The deafening blast exploded through the silent truck stop. The man in front of the truck flinched instantly. Then she hit it again. And again. Louder. Longer. The parking lot suddenly came alive. Lights turned on inside nearby trucks. A driver opened his door in the distance. Another engine started nearby. The atmosphere changed immediately. And for the first time all night, the men outside reacted. The figure in front of the truck stepped backward quickly. The footsteps on the roof scrambled fast. Panic. Not hers anymore. Theirs. Megan hit the horn one more time and floored the accelerator. The truck lunged forward violently. The man jumped out of the headlights at the last second. Megan didn't stop. Didn't look back. The massive truck tore out of the parking lot and back onto the dark highway. Her hands shook uncontrollably on the steering wheel. Tears blurred her vision. But she kept driving. Miles passed before she finally slowed her breathing. The empty highway stretched ahead once more. Dark. Silent. Endless. But something inside her had changed forever. Because that night taught her the most dangerous thing about sleeping alone on the road wasn't always the people outside the truck. Sometimes, it was the fear inside your own mind. The fear that freezes you, controls you, paralyzes you. Megan glanced at the clock. 3:14 a.m. Almost dawn. She looked in the mirror one final time. No headlights behind her. No shadows. Nothing. Just darkness. Still, she never stopped using the air horn before sleeping after that night. And years later, she would still tell new female truck drivers the exact same sentence. If your instincts wake you up at night, trust them.